there's no denying movement is absolutely huge in Apex, and it's what it's well known for, is its movement mechanics and its whole movement system. Mastering that movement can be a whole new challenge, especially on controller and especially on console. We're quite limited to doing certain things. However, hopefully this guide will help you, as I'm going to take you through plenty of different techniques to help you master your movement on controller. Now, I will be covering basics here and also some more advanced techniques, so there will be a bit of everything hopefully for everyone in the guide. I will include timestamps in the video description if you want to skip ahead to anything, and I have got the hand cam on screen to hopefully make some things a little easier for those of you who might need a bit more of a visual aid. So before we actually get into any movement techniques, I just want to cover some controller settings. So there's a few things we can do to make movement a lot easier in Apex. And the first thing I recommend you do is on your crouch button, setting that to hold. This is going to make things like bunny hopping and super gliding much easier, and just your overall strafing and moving around the map will just feel much nicer and much more fluid. It gives you more control, but there will be a few things to remember which I will point out as we go through the guide. If you're not already, I'd highly recommend changing your button layout as well. So unless you play Claw, I would highly recommend using Ninja or a custom controller setup. Now mine at the minute, you can copy this, feel free if you want to. All I've done is I've switched my my jump to L1 and my crouch to the right stick. This just makes things much easier for me, and generally it's only something I've recently switched to, but it's made my movement much nicer. And since doing so, it's allowed me a bit more fluidity with my bunny hops and my super jumps and zipline jumps and all that kind of stuff, because it means I'm not having to play Claw and try hit all the buttons correctly and all that kind of business. So choose as you wish, either Ninja, or if you have back paddles as well, that's going to make things much easier, or a custom button layout. But having jump not on X is going to make things easier because you're able to use your right stick fairly well as well. So let's talk about the first movement technique, and it's all going to start from the top, the very basics, and this of course is going to be slide jumping. So I'm sure most of you already know this already, but all we're going to do is we're going to run, and as soon as we hit maximum momentum, we're going to get into a slide and then jump out of it, and that is a slide jump. So if you are on hold for the crouch, you will need to keep hold of your crouch button while jumping. If you're on toggle and you just prefer that, you don't need to worry about that. You can just hit your crouch button and then jump at the end of it. So we're just going to run, slide and jump, and that is a slide jump. So the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be a bunny hop. Now, you can make this easier by selecting Octane as your legend and using his stim. However, it is possible to do with any legend, and this is where hold is going to be vital. You're going to need to have your crouch on hold to do this. So if you do like playing on toggle, please try it out, because if you want a bunny hop, it has to be on hold. So all we're going to do is we're going to slide, we're going to do a slide jump, and then as we land back down, on the end of our slide, we're just going to jump again, as soon as we hear that noise that we're touching the ground. Now, you can do this in a straightforward line, but if you strafe, you actually keep more momentum. So I will show you. So we're going to run, we're going to slide jump, and we're just going to keep hopping as we hit the ground. So you keep a bit of that momentum, but then you come to a dead stop. So if we carry on this in a strafing movement, we will actually keep more of our momentum, and it means we can go on a lot longer, say you need to evade danger. Now, the important thing to remember with bunny hopping is you can't really do it uphill. It will completely stop your momentum. So we either do it downhill, or when we're getting away from enemies, trying to evade them and just strafing around a few corners. So all we're going to do is slide jump, and as we come to landing again the second time, we're just going to hop, and as we keep landing, we're just going to keep hopping and pressing our jump button while holding crouch. And as you can see with the strafe, we managed to hold more momentum and get around a little easier. Now, building on from bunny hopping, we can actually do bunny hop healing, but this is only with Octane. You used to be able to do it with any legend, but a good few seasons ago now they patched that, and it is only now possible with Octane. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to nade myself and take some shield damage so I can show you this. So I'm just going to swap to Octane as well. So I've got the bat ready. And all we're going to do is the same thing as bunny hop, but when we go into the hop, as we come out and jump, we're going to hit heal, which for me is up on the D-pad, so I've got to do this a little weird. I've not actually really done this on L1 yet, so it's going to be interesting to see. But all we're going to do is we're going to run, slide jump, and then we're going to start hopping. And as we go into that first jump, we're going to hit heal, and then we're just going to continue our bunny hop as normal. And this is where I say like back paddles and stuff are going to make certain movements easy, and bunny hopping is probably one of them. So anyway, we're just going to go ahead with that, and you'll see as I come out of the slide jump, I'm going to hit up to start healing and then continue into the bunny hop. But before we do any of that, we do need to activate Octane Stim, which is why this is only possible with Octane to keep that forward momentum and velocity.
It's go time! Charging on my shields.
So as you can see, it's not as rapid as a normal bunny hop as you would be able to do with Octane. But if you stim and just bunny hop in general, you can see how much more speed we actually get. Now, out of the bunny hops, we get way more velocity and speed, and we can just keep going and going and going. Of course, if I don't mess it up and hit the pavement again, or the curb, or the rock there, we can just keep going a lot longer. So Octane is a better and easier character to learn bunny hopping with if it's something you're going to struggle with. Height is absolutely huge in Apex, and it should come as no surprise that in a movement guide we are going to be talking about climbing. Now, climbing is a great way to get around the map and get that advantage on your enemies quite easily. However, there's certain things we can do and certain tips you should know about climbing in general. The first thing I just want to talk about is you can actually sort of rotate and swing yourself around climbing points. And as you'll see on screen now, I'm climbing one of the main buildings in World's Edge, but you can sort of turn your aim essentially and climb around certain poles and areas that you might have thought you might not be able to climb. And in doing so, this does open a lot of different spots around the map. And World's Edge notoriously has a lot of climbing spots, and there are certain things that you can actually latch onto and climb onto, and this gives you sort of an advantage because it means you can climb even higher and enables you to sneak up on some enemies. As you can see, one of the main buildings in World's Edge that everyone seems to go to with the zipline in the middle, you can actually climb up the side, and I don't think many people know this, but it's a pretty cool trick. There's a few of these around the World's Edge map, so be sure to experiment with this and have a go at climbing some of the buildings yourself. So there's just one thing I wanted to slot in here which I did miss, so I've come back to it, and it is going to be death box looting. Although on controller you can actually move while you're looting, we can actually jump and loot at the same time, which sounds weird. It's not as great as you would think, but it does kind of help in those quick situations you might need a quick armor swap. So all you need to do here, again, practice this, it'll all come down to timing. What you need to do is start opening the loot box, and then as that's getting close to the end and about to open, hit your jump button, and then you'll do a jump, and it just gives you that extra second of maybe putting you out of danger. So if someone does have a shot on you, they might not land all their shots, and it just enables you to get a quick armor swap or quickly get some ammo. Obviously this will just come with practice and you'll get better over time, but I thought it was worth mentioning and putting in this guide. So the next technique we're going to talk about is wall bouncing, and there's actually two separate wall bounces you can do. So one of them does include a slide jump, and one of them you don't have to do from sliding either. So we're going to cover both, of course, as this is a movement guide. So the first one we're going to start with is a slide jump, and as what we're going to do is we're going to slide and then jump at the wall. Now we don't want to be too close to the wall. As we're approaching the wall, we want to jump, and then we want to let go of pushing forward, and then jump once more once we hit the wall. Once we land on the wall, we want to jump again. So all we're going to do is run, slide jump, and as we hit the wall, let go, don't touch your left stick, and then we're going to jump as we hit the wall, and that should send a flying. And you want to do this at a slight angle, nothing too crazy. We don't need to be at like a 90-degree angle to the wall, but you'll just get a general feel. Around 20-30 degrees is kind of what we're looking for, and we're just going to slide jump into it and then jump off, as you'll see on the hand cam there. And there we go, that's your wall bounce. So you can actually wall bounce sort of over things as well. So if we hit this post at like more head on, we can slide jump into that and get over the post. So we need to push forward immediately after hitting that jump, and then we'll be able to get over that post and use that to sort of climb over walls a little quicker. This will just skip this little climbing animation, and it just feels a little nice and saves you all those precious milliseconds while being chased by the thirsty people in the lobby. So all we're going to do is just going to slide jump into the wall and then let go and push forward as we hit the bounce. And there we go. It sort of skips the climbing animation, but I mean, it doesn't, I don't know if it actually saves that much time, but there you go. Just something useful to know. Now, you can also wall bounce without slider jumping into the wall as well, so we're just going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to run into it and then wall bounce off. Now, you don't get as much momentum as you can tell, but you still get enough so that you can do a little wall bounce. And if you want to be cool about it, if you want to be clever, you can actually just jump off and then slide back to gain a little more momentum than you normally would from your wall bounce. And if you don't hit a rock, you'll actually gain more momentum than I was saying. But you can just slide out of those to obviously increase the travel distance and the distance you actually gain from the wall bounce. So the next thing we're going to talk about is actually zipline jumping, and the first one I want to start with is just vertical zipline boosting. This stuff's pretty simple, and you can either slide jump into this or run and jump into this, and all we're going to do is run, tap square, and then hit jump on the other end before we even start climbing up the zipline, and it's just going to give us that little boost when we get off the zipline. So that's all it is, and as you can see, we gain a little momentum boost. If you're running away from someone, it might just help you get over that wall or something. It's nothing too crazy, but you can actually build on this. So the next part we're going to talk about is just 180s on zip lines, which can be quite cool just to throw your enemy off, or you know, if you're going up the zip lines in World's Edge and all that kind of business, if you want to look cool and throw your enemies off a little. I'm sure you know what I mean. But all we're going to do is we're going to run and jump at the zip line. We're going to hold square the entire time. So we're going to run and jump at it. As we hit it, we're going to jump off again. We're going to pull back on the left stick so we hover over the zip line. It stops our momentum traveling forward. Still holding square, we're going to do a 180 and then jump off this side, and then we're going to land back where we were. And you can slide jump in and out of that if you want to, or you can just jump in and out of it. It's entirely up to you. I know it sounds like a lot, but I'm sure as you see it, it will make more sense. But this pulling back on the left stick will just sort of hover us in the air, stop our momentum going forward, and make it a little easier to grab that zipline there for the second time. And then we can slide jump out of that and bunny hop and whatever you want to do, really. But you can do that multiple times. It's just about how much you can sort of hold on to the zipline, I guess, and how quick you are with your fingers. But you can just keep doing these 180s for as long as you really want to, I guess. Sometimes they might not even be 180s, but you can just catch your enemies off guard, I suppose, with those. So the next thing I want to talk about is just zipline super jumping, and this is pretty simple. It all just comes down to timing. All we're going to do is hit square to ride the zipline, then in quick succession we're just going to hit our jump button twice really fast, and this will just boost us in the air a lot higher than we'd normally be able to get with a zipline jump. And as you can see, just getting the timing right eventually take a bit of practice, but like I say, having that jump button on a different button compared to X makes things a little easier, specifically if you're sort of running away from someone and you need to zipline jump over something or just throw your enemies off guard. It does make it a little easier if you're slightly to the left or right of the zipline rather than directly underneath it. I'm not sure why, but it does seem to make it a little easier. But as you can see, we get a huge height boost, and it all just comes down to how fast you can press that jump button. Really double tapping that jump button. I'm getting so muddled by my words, but as you can see, if you don't do it fast enough, you just kind of get stuck on the zipline. So practice that in the firing range, just get Pathy, get his ult, and give that a go for yourself. So you can also do something called a zipline hyper jump, and this was some recent movement tech found by Moki Sniper, and he's huge in the Apex movement community, and I'd highly recommend you check out his full guide on this if you want a more in-depth breakdown. But just to cover it in this guide, as of course this is a movement guide and we are doing it on controller, I just want to show you it is possible on controller, although it is very hard, and it does take a lot of time and a lot of getting used to. I've only managed to do it a handful of times, and of course I've managed to capture one of those. So I'm just going to teach you how to sort of do it and how you need to be going about this. But like I say, if you want a full guide, check out Moki Sniper for that. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to do the zipline super jump. So you're going to hit square, jump, jump really fast. And then once you're in the air, you also then want to press square and then jump again. But you only press jump once this time. And in doing so, it launches you into the air even higher than the super jump, as you can see. And it's just kind of crazy. Like, it's all down to time, and it will take a long time and a lot of practice to really get to grips with this. But have a go yourself. See if you can replicate it. I'd love to know how you guys get on with this. So do let me know in the comments below if you manage to make it to the zipline hyper jumps, how you've sort of found that. So we're just going to cover some stuff over the jump pad. I've covered this in my Octane guide, but I thought I'd cover it here. Is technically movement stuff. It all involves Octane's jump pad, but the first thing we're going to talk about is air strafing. Now this is really simple, and it applies to Pathfinder's grapple as well. If you're wanting to know more about Pathfinder, you can view my Pathfinder guide where I cover all of his grapple and the certain movement techniques involved with that to maximize your distance, if that's your thing. Anyway, with air strafing, it's pretty simple. All we're going to do is we're going to hit the pad, and as we're in the air, we're going to turn our look stick slightly one way, or so left or right, and then our left stick is just going to follow that direction, sort of curving around in an arc, kind of like this sort of movement. But we're just going to do that as we hit the jump pad, and you'll see we sort of just travel around rather than landing in a straight line, and maybe makes it a little easier to get away from those enemies that could be chasing us. So it just enables you to get some distance. Of course, I didn't double jump there. But what you can do with a double jump is also change the direction you're going in to really throw people off. So again, I'm just going to do an air strafe, and then I'm going to double jump to use the double jump to change my direction pretty quickly. Now, you don't have to use a double jump to change directions, but it just adds that little extra height and makes things a little easier. I'm just going to hit that jump, and we're going to change directions. And it might make things a little easier in certain situations, but that's just the basics of air strafing, and you can obviously do that with anyone on a pad. It doesn't have to be Octane at all. While we've got the pad out, there's just something else I want to cover, and this is just the direction you go in when hitting the jump pad. Like, you don't actually have to just go forward of it. If you melee and then move the direction in which you want to go, you will actually travel in that direction. And if you only melee onto the pad, you'll actually just end up using it as a trampoline, which can be quite fun. And again, I covered it in my Octane guide, but if you just do a melee and have no movement input, you can just kind of use it as a trampoline. And then to get off it, you obviously just need to go to the side of the trampoline, or the jump pad, sorry, and then you're at the trampoline. But if we melee and say pull backwards, we should end up flying backwards. And there you go. You can actually catch people off guard thinking you're going to hit the jump pad. I'm not sure if this will work as well when running. You can sort of do it, but obviously it's not to the same effect as when standing still. So if you just want to have a bit of fun with the jump pad, that's always there, and that's always nice to know. So one more thing I just want to cover in the firing range before I sort of go over how to put all these movement techniques together in actual games is the super glide. Now this is a bit weird, and I'm not sure how it works. It's just kind of Apex in general. But what you need to do is find a 90-degree ledge in the firing range, and as you climb it and come to the top, all you're going to do is press crouch and jump at the same time, and you'll have a crazy sort of initial speed boost. I think it's like 400 actually on the velocity scale when people have checked it, but you'll know if you've hit it. Now it can be a little weird with the timing, and it will take a bit of practice, so be sure to give this a go in the firing range and keep trying it to make sure you get the hang of it. But if you just do a normal jump and slide, you'll just kind of end up going like that, so you'll know when you hit the super glide, as it will just propel you much further. So like say, we're just going to climb it and we're going to push forward, and as we push forward, we're just going to slide and jump at the same time as we come to the top of the climbing animation. Now I need to mention here, to make this easier, we want to turn auto sprint on. If you don't already, make sure your auto sprint is on. Where is it? There it is. In gameplay, make sure your auto sprint is on. You want to have that maximum sort of sprinting momentum as you hit jump and crouch. And auto sprint here is really going to help you out. And again, having your crouch on hold rather than toggle is going to make this easier. So let's give it a go. And there you go. You see that like difference in speed there? That's how you know it was a super glide. You get that huge difference in sort of speed boost and sort of momentum. Now, it's pretty hard, but once you get the timing of it and the hang of it, you'll eventually just start super gliding everywhere. And it's kind of fun to do. So you see that one wasn't a super glide. You can see because they're sort of edge of your field of views, you can tell you get that sort of speed boost. You just know when it happens. It's hard to kind of explain, but there's that visual cue to sort of say, yeah, you did it. So on that one, it wasn't a super glide. So give that a practice. You'll sort of know when you hit it. And then that's sort of all we're going to cover in the firing range. So I'm going to just talk to you about putting all this together and having the height and all that kind of stuff. And just utilizing that movement to really take people on in actual games. But I just wanted to end this video by talking about how we can bring all this new movement tech together and really utilize the new stuff we've learned. Now, I'd highly recommend you first start out by practicing the firing range, getting to grips with everything we've gone through in this guide. Now, I'm not saying I'm the best movement person ever, or the movement player ever. Definitely not, but hopefully this guide has provided you with some knowledge around certain techniques, and those of you that might be new to movement and new to Apex, hopefully it will help some of you in the long run as well. Now, like I said, I highly recommend you practice these before taking them into the actual game, and of course you can go back to any points you may need to go over them and really try to get the hang of them. When you're ready, I highly recommend you sort of bring these into pub lobbies, and World's Edge is probably going to be the better map for your movement. There's a lot more buildings to sort of play around with, as I'm sure you know Fade. It's his favourite map, and there's a lot more height to gain and some nicer zip lines and buildings to play around with. But you might be thinking, well, how can I actually utilize some of this stuff? Like, how can I utilize a wall bounce? How can I utilize these zipline jumps? Well, if you think about it, movement is all about making your sort of self harder to hit, and in that way you can sort of make yourself more unpredictable during your fights. So say you know an enemy is coming around the corner, rather than just peeking and walking around, you could actually just wall bounce around that corner and catch them off guard. They're probably not going to expect someone to be mid-air shooting them. They're going to be expecting someone to come on the bottom or on the floor, I should say, and just walking around and peeking that corner. So that's where they're going to be aiming. They're not going to expect someone flying through the air and wall bouncing on them. A wall bounce could also be used when you're running away from someone. You know, you could wall bounce over a wall rather than climbing it, and it makes you harder to hit and obviously gives you a better chance of perhaps getting away from someone who might be chasing you. On top of that, stuff like zip lines can be utilized all around. I'll put a clip on screen now of how I used a basic zipline jump just to catch my enemy off guard, fly over the top of him, and then take him out, leading to the squad wipe. And it's just making yourself more unpredictable, making yourself harder to hit, and always trying to achieve the high ground and get the most out of your movement. Now, a lot of this will just come in time, and like I say, I'm still not the best of it. I'm just practicing, and that's all we can do. You know, we just practice each time we play Apex in the hope that we get better than we were yesterday, and that's all we can do. You know, there might be people better than you, but just focus on yourself and, you know, don't compare. All we can do is learn from our mistakes. And if you're unsure how you're actually looking, your movement and all, and how you play in Apex, maybe just PS4 share and watch your gameplay back and see, actually, I could have done this here. Why was I so slow getting up this? What could I have improved here? And that'll highly help you out. Like, that's the one tip I would recommend to everyone. Even when I do it, I see so many places where I could have gone, actually, I should have done this differently. But anyway, like I say, just give this practice. Take everything into account that we've gone through, all the climbing, all the zipline jumps, the wall jumping, even the basics like the bunny hopping and slide jumping, can really help increase your movement and improve how well you travel around the map, and of course, how good you are at Apex. It makes a huge difference, and it's one of the main reasons why Apex is loved, just because of its movement mechanics. Anyway, I'm going to leave this video there. I hope this helped you, and if it did help you, please do give a like. I would really appreciate it. But for now, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.